I'd like to thank you for having me on your show, Carl.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Hobbs. Thanks for hanging out with me and putting up with my weird quirkiness.
Your snores?
You're the one who snores, sir.
Carl Rodriguez is the GMologist, GM extraordinaire, the GMologist.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geomologist Presents. I have a man who really needs no introduction as a special guest, and that is Jason Hobbs of Hobbs and Friends and Random Screed and Hex Talk and 3 more podcasts, I'm sure, in the works. But he and I got to hang out at North Texas RPGCON this weekend. How you doing, Hobbs?
I am fantastic. I think I got 4 podcasts in the work, though, Carl.
4 podcasts. That's great. Yeah, and then you can, next time we have a breakfast, you can say, I run 1 podcast a day, and it's a different podcast. No, we had a good time. I think, so I have some questions, and I'm sure we'll just freeform talk at some point. It was great to see you again. I don't think we've seen each other since the early aughts or 90s, right?
Yeah, I would guess like mid 2000s or something when I was paintballing in Texas.
Yeah. So I'll use a Hobbs and Friends question. How did we meet?
We were buddies, or I guess gamers together at Hero Central, a play-by-post forum specifically created for playing hero games or champions type games.
Yeah, we played a lot of really cool games there. I think now with the VTTs, play-by-post seems extremely archaic and very slow, or the other way around. So do you play any? You don't play any play-by-post anymore, do you?
No, and I never effing will, Carl.
We had some good ones. I love those. I've looked over the transcript from Hero Central. It doesn't exist anymore, but someone was able to get those transcripts. This guy named, his handle is Trickster Priest. He was able to get the transcripts from all the games we played in Hero Central, which is it's a fun read. It'd be great to kind of, I don't know, in my mind, it'd be great to bring some of those games back, because you sort of one waxes nostalgia about some of the cool things that happened. But yeah, I think you're right. A play-by-post is so, I've tried some, and they just don't work. They really don't work nowadays to me. I'll try them.
Yeah, they're just so slow. I can remember at the time I was working at a computer. That's back when I was programming and sitting at a computer desk where I could, keep the game going, do quite a bit of things, but you were still waiting for the other people.
Yeah, and that's the problem, I think, is you kind of wait. And some people are better than others because of whatever reason, life gets in the way, or that they don't post, and you want things to go faster sometimes, especially as a GM, you want to move the story. But yeah, maybe as a duet game it could work. But even so, I've been in a few of those, and people lose interest, or they find something else, and I don't know. It's a tough thing to do. But anyway, that's not why we're talking today. That's kind of as we talk nostalgic, and like Hobbs said, that's how we met on Hero Central. But we both were able to go to this North Texas RPGCon. And why do you? I'll answer after, since you're my guest. So why do you go to North Texas?
In my opinion, it's probably the best old school con around. It might be one of the best cons that nobody knows about. This year specifically, I was a special guest, so it was pretty hard for me not to go.
What did you get as a special guest?
So as a special guest, it was a free badge. So I think badges were like $80 or $90, right?
Yeah.
I got a T-shirt with my name on it.
That was cool. That's cool. It's like it had your name on the back, right?
Yeah. So you could easily pick them out. It's the same T-shirt anyone could have got. They could have purchased, but it actually had our name. My name was put on the back. Free food at any of the trucks, and I think that's like cool. Some cash for other food if you went anywhere else. So basically, other than a hotel room, and your passage to get there, airfare in my situation, the
Mhm.
con should have been relatively free.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's good. Well, so, but that's not why you came. You came, that was kind of a perk, but that's really not why you came, I think.
No, I'd been there. This is probably my 5th year or 6th year, maybe, at NTRPGCON. And like I say, it's I mean, it's you always for me, I've always gone to cons really to see all my buddies and maybe network for the brand or whatever.
Mhm.
Which is a weird way of saying talk about people, see if people want to be on the podcast or let people know that I have a podcast. But even before any podcasting, it was really just to see some of the old guard. Everyone is super friendly there, as you found hanging out with me. I was constantly running into people that I knew, and it was most people had heard of me in some way or another, so it was easy to talk to them. Like when we had dinner with Alan Hammock and
Yeah.
Steve Winter.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Yeah, you meet some amazing people who've been designing games for a very long time, and everyone is very friendly. I've met Zeb Cook there. This is the second time I've run into him there. Jeff, well, some other newer authors too, like Jeff Delaney and Levi Combs, Skeeter James, right? The list goes on and on. and that I think is a good. It's a small con, but there's a lot going on, and I was really happy to see those numbers back from pre-COVID days too. And I come to the con because it's relatively local. I can drive, but you are correct. It's very friendly, and everyone's like open and inviting. They want to talk about their games. Oh, I met Greg Gillespie there as well. People want to talk about their games and what's going on, and share their wisdom for those of us who are players or designers coming into the hobby. I think it's really cool. So I think I mean I achieved the goal, or my expectations were achieved, I would say, by going to this con, and I had the benefit of you and I got to hang out. And I thought that was pretty cool too. So you,
Yeah,
especially since you have all the connections, right? You have all these connections, and I feel like I'm still like a I would say a freshman, like a freshman coming into this community, the OSR community, having come back through Kalmata and the Audio Dungeon Discord, and it was great that to meet a lot of people. I think I probably would have, honestly, I probably would have hung up out in my room and after the
yeah.
game. So
I'm glad that we could go down there and play games and just meet all these people. I personally found a newfound appreciation for the old guard, because since I've been going to like Gary Con, Game Hole in North Texas over the past 10-12 years, I've had a chance to meet almost all of them and even play in some of the games. I can't say they're really the type of game that I really most often want to play in for whatever reason, but they're super cool just to sit around and talk with them.
yeah, oh, that's for sure. Yeah, the social part of it. I think I'm probably jumping ahead, but I think the place that we stayed at, the Westin, where they host the Westin DFW, where they host the con, was really very accommodating. They had things open later. They had I thought the organization was really good, for what the hotel did. I mean, in my opinion, I thought it's really neat. They really let us kind of, in a way, have the run of the hotel, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention that Doug Rea is the guy who ran this con ever since its inception, and he passed away last year. And so we didn't even know if there was going to be a North Texas Con anymore. But Gary Oliver and Mike Battalato, Bad Mike, really did a great job, and everyone that helped him. I know anything like this is a family affair without question,
Right.
and more hands make much lighter work. But it was Mike told me that it on his deathbed, Doug told him to keep the con going. That was his last wish.
Wow.
I don't know if that's
Dang.
true, but that's what he said.
Hey, it's a legendary thing that he said, so it's true, right? Legends can become true. That's actually awesome. I did not know that. I mean, I thought it was well run and well organized. there are a few little things, but if they're like, these are the first time that these guys have like taken the lead on it. So, that's
Yeah.
honest, expected a little bit, but when we're on site, like I think they were the most, I would say, for me as a GM at least, and I guess that'll probably segue into the next question. For me as a GM, I thought they were the most like hands-on, like I could get things if I needed them really quick from that booth, So
Yeah, well, I mean, not every con puts a nice battle mat like that at every single
right,
table.
and a marker to need if you need,
Yeah.
and
As far as the hotel goes, I know it was a contract year for them,
uh-huh,
so they really wanted to do a good job for the con, and I thought they did. But
yeah,
anyway, yeah, they're very accommodating. I mean, they make a special module. Someone writes a special module each year for it. This year was like a Doug, uh, I don't know, ode to Doug kind of. I haven't even looked at mine yet. You got
I haven't
one,
either.
right?
I got one. Yeah, the Pace Setter games came, right? Is that the?
Yeah.
I'll put it. I'll try to put a link to Pace Setter in the show notes, but I think it's called the Call to Adventure, the Ben Barsh one. Yeah,
Yep.
Call to NTX6. Yep. So Call to Adventure. Yeah, I'll put the from Pace Setter games. I'll put it in the show notes somehow. But so that gets us to games. We gave you like an overview, like why we come. The place was great. So I didn't know they were in a contract year. See, Hobbs knows everything. That's a great reason to get him as a guest on your show. So
It's not even close to being true.
I don't know. Maybe he can read people's minds. What other powers does Jason Hobbs have? Anyway, so I don't know if you played in a lot of games. I know you ran a lot. So let's talk about the games that we played or ran. So you go first.
So, all right. So I did not play in any games. I was scheduled to play in a Tecumel game ran by Victor Raymond, but the big storm on Wednesday, his flight got canceled. So he didn't show up until Friday night or Saturday even. So he kept contacting me because he wanted to play test an adventure. So maybe sometime I'll put out a call and I'll get a hold of him and see if he wants to run it online or something.
All right.
And then I was also supposed to play in Zeb Cook's game, but I was kind of exhausted that day by then. As you know, I didn't actually go and play in it, but I did run.
Yeah, great.
You want to talk about games you played, or you want me to keep going?
Yeah, I'll talk about the games I played too. Yeah, and then you can talk about your game. I actually got to play in two of Hobbs's game. I think neither of them were on the books, right? Oh no, the Weeping Man was on the book. So the Wednesday night pre-con game, I jumped into Hobbs's game. It's an OSE game. I had a good time. I'll let Jason talk about it more. And then I played in a pickup game, right, that you ran for looking for. No, I'm sorry, Low Fantasy Gaming. That's a joke, guys. But I'll see when I see LFG, I think looking for group because of my WoW addiction, World of Warcraft addiction. But a Low Fantasy Gaming, it's the second time I played it, and I think with you, and I had a great time with that one. That was a really good game, Jason, and I know you'll talk about that more. I played in two other games. I played in a game that I've never played before on the advice of a wise man, said always try to go to a con and play a game you haven't played before. And I played in Ring World, which is an old BRP game by Chaosium. And I'll have to look, I'll put on the show notes, I don't know, you can't get it anymore really. But it's an old Chaosium game. It takes place on Larry Niven's Ring World, the classic science fiction game. And I enjoyed the game a lot. It was run by a guy named Paul Smith, who I've run into at cons before. He and I actually played in a Delta Green game. It's now published as the Hourglass, and we're both playtesters. We're both playtesters in it. Written by Shane Ivey for Arc Dream. But yeah, he ran a really good game. We created characters initially, and that was to me the only kind of slowy part of the game. But for me, because I'd love to get this game to the table, it was fine because then I was like, oh, this is how you do character creation. And then we ran an adventure. I won't give a lot of detail because it's a published adventure in the book. Suffice us to say, much like in the novels, we crash land on the Ring World, try to figure out how to get out of a lot of shenanigans that happen on the ring world. And I think it came to a very satisfying conclusion. We sought a diplomatic solution, but it was more like a diplomatic backstab type of solution. We didn't really, the only detriment of that game is we didn't get into any combat, which I would love to do because they have this unique, I think it's unique. Maybe it's not, maybe you might know better, Jason, but like it does like the initiative keeps going. It's like a running total. Like to say your pistol takes five segments to go, then you go, move might take 3, so then you're at an 8, and then if you shoot again, then you go to like 13. So it keeps going, it ticks up. It's a ticking up initiative. So that was a cool game that I played.
That's kind of the way we ran second edition D&D with the segments, because everything had a segment.
Yeah.
But you re-roll initiative sometimes, so it didn't just keep going like that. But that actually seems a way more efficient.
Yeah, I think people have to wrap their head around. Oh, I think the latest Hackmaster might do that too, if I recall correctly. I think it's a 3rd edition Hackmaster that does like an uptick, continually, ticking up initiative. But yeah, I think it's a very different style of initiative than we're used to, right? Side initiative, or if you're 3-5 plus engine, then everyone rolls a d20 highest to lowest. But yeah, it seemed pretty neat. But we didn't get to it because we opted for a more diplomacy versus shooting guns. And I think it seems like it's pretty lethal based on the fiction. Every single weapon that you use like disintegrates people. So, like Star Trek, like Star Trek phaser to kill effectively. So it's probably a good thing we didn't get into combat. Like the other game I played, I played in a game run by Skeeter James of MCC. And I really...
Let me interrupt you 1 second.
Okay.
Skeeter Green.
Dang. Okay. Skeeter. Why did I think anyway? Skeeter Green. Okay. Sorry about that. So I ran a game run by him. I guess he has this product called Crypt of the Science Wizard out for MCC/DCC, and he kind of has. I guess he's developing level 2. So we played some of his newer stuff level 2, and I played like DCC and like America, which uses DCC, and I really, I guess MCC gets sort of this like unfinished kind of game wrap, but I don't know, it's finished enough for me. I had a good time. I played an adept. I got some good rolls, so yeah, it was a really enjoyable game, and I did. By Saturday though night, I was kind of tired and exhausted, and I signed up for a game of Corsairs of Cthulhu. But I saw 6 hours and 8 people, and I was like, I don't want to do that right now. So it's just, I think by the end, by the end of a con, you start to feel that way. And, I talked to the guy, I have the product. I think is it Ken Burns from New Comet Games or something?
It's definitely Ken something. I can't remember what his last name is.
Or it might be Ben Burns from New Comet Games. It just came out. I'll put the links in the show notes. But
Ben Burns is right.
Yeah, I had the game. I hadn't read through it. I was refraining from reading through it. But he and I have talked about it. I saw him at ChupacabraCon, whatever, and let someone else jump in there. In my opinion, since maybe they won't be able to experience it, in the future, because I'm going to run it for sure. So those are the games I played.
I'm pretty sure you can get Skeeter's Adventure in 5e, and I think he originally wrote it for Swords and Wizardry. I'm not sure though.
Yes, all 3 of those systems you can get that. So he also wrote the other product I got from him. I guess I'm jumping ahead into new purchases somewhat while you think about talking about your games that you ran. And he did just like a new Call of Cthulhu adventure by him and Luke Gygax called The Dread from Geneva Lake. And it's like an alternate occurrence at this past GaryCon, I guess, right? So he has the dates of this past. Yeah, he did that. I picked it up. He actually signed it for me, which is pretty cool. So since Amy likes Call of Cthulhu, it's probably something that I'll get to run soon. So let's talk about your games, Hobbs. Because you ran a bunch of games. Were
I
you?
did.
Did you expect to run that many games?
Well, my normal is maybe run a game or two and play a game or two max, and almost never do I. This is my normal convention protocol. I almost never sign up for anything, so I never submit anything. I don't do anything. But since I was a special guest, they had asked the special guest to run a game. So I actually, and I didn't really know who was going for some reason, after COVID and that lack of that missing North Texas for a couple of years. I didn't really know who all was going to be there, so I didn't know how much time I'd have or if I'd be able to jump into games off the book or not. The people that I a lot of times would go there with, like Hoffman or just a plethora of dudes who normally go, weren't going, and so I signed up to run 3 games. One play test of the Weeping Man, which is old school essentials. One play test of the Cinerarium of the Sin Eater, which is low fantasy gaming, the one you played in. And then you played in both of those actually, but the one you played, the play test wasn't on the books that you played in. You played in the pickup game we did afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also thought that I almost always have to run a legendary Kalmata game, because it's always been my intention that if you play in a con, even if you never play online, you could bring your character and then still get to play Kalmata.
That's cool. So if you play online, could you bring your character to the con? Like if I had the time to jump in, like unfortunately, like I think one of my games that I ran overlapped with Kalmata, but could I have brought like my dwarf?
Oh yeah, Mungo.
Oh, awesome.
So
yeah.
So the on the grid game of Kalmata was all new players that had never played Kalmata but one, and that was Frank Brooks, and he kind of just snuck into the game because he didn't have anything going on. All the other people had never played Kalmata before, so they got pre-gens. Frank got pre-gen as well because he's had like 3 characters die in Kalmata probably.
Yeah.
So
I'm not there yet. Only a couple.
That was my on the grid games, and I didn't feel like the play test of the Weeping Man went very well, mostly because I'm struggling a little bit with leaving things because I like to run sandboxes, but when you try to run a sandbox at a con, it's not the expectation of the players, so it can be a bit of a struggle. And that actually got me talking to you and probably to quite a large group of other people. So when I ran Kalmata later on grid, I totally just decided to have you ever heard of the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willenick and Leif Babin?
No, but I'll look it up and put it in the show notes.
Well, it's basically really about these guys who were Navy SEALs teams and how they take their leadership tactics of being that sort of, high pressure situation, and you can use those to own your own business or your own hobby or whatever. Just take ownership of what you're doing, see what you're doing wrong and fix it. And so it really, using some of those tactics, I decided, I'm just going to own it. Instead of kind of waffling about it, I was going to take the 5 minutes up front to explain to people what it feels like or what it means or what my expectations are as a GM for the players who are going to play in the sandboxy type game. We're going to pick a caller. We're going to pick a mapper. We're going to pick a quartermaster. They're all going to have jobs. And then we're going to say, instead of them maybe just sitting there and trying to decide, I'm going to give them a minute and say, okay, it looks like these are the 3 things that maybe you want to do. And then I'm going to go around the table and then we're going to vote for what you want to do. And whichever one has the majority, that's what we're doing, just to lower the amount of time spent waffling about the decision. When you're playing with a bunch of strangers, it's not that easy to necessarily connect with them, even though we all obviously love the hobby. It's not that easy to connect with them. So I was super excited the way that ended up working out after kind of struggling with it during the Weeping Man, which that wasn't all that. It was also some other things that you can talk about when you can say how you felt about it as a player. But
sure.
The Cinerarium of the Sin Eater, both games, the on grid and the other one, only had 3 players, but in low fantasy gaming, honestly, 3 or 4 players is kind of perfect because the characters have enough capabilities and enough time that you can all get a really nice spotlight with 3 or 4. You could play the adventure with 5 or 6, I think, but it didn't bother me really that we only had 3 in both of those. And I have to shout out to James Richards from the Gamerhood Discord. I just asked him at one point, he had said he wanted to do some art and maps, and he really
those were nice. Oh, that was okay. That's great. That was awesome.
Yeah, he knocked those maps and that art just totally killed it. I mean, it was so good, and I really felt like it helped being able to see that, so we could have a group vision of some of the aspects of the game. And then the definitely the conversation after the pickup game of this, well, both games really. But when I was doing it with strangers, who don't know me, they're trying to teach me things that I'm kind of maybe familiar with. But when I'm talking with you and Edwin, that's a whole different
Edwin Naj of Frog God Games. And you also mentioned Eric Hoffman of Stormlord Publishing just earlier. So there, anyway. Go ahead. Sorry. I just want to get those names out there for those people. All right.
No problem. So I picked up quite a few players who really enjoyed playing Kalmata. A few of them have asked how to get involved and play more, possibly online. And then my last game that I ran was Kalmata with a bunch of my buddies. So Frank got into that game. The character that he had started the game before was killed in that game. He ended that game carousing and being incarcerated by the Blackguard.
Oh no.
And then we got him out, and then he died. I think he was the only player character that didn't make it, but David Beatty, Paul Wolf, Ryan Moore, Thaddeus Moore, Grady Moore, Brenda Wolf.
Oh wow! Big group.
All of those guys were in the Kalmata game, who are people mostly who've actually played before at cons or online, and they just used their phones, went onto the Roll20, pulled their characters off their phones, and we just played. So it was pretty fantastic. Like I say, I normally don't run that many games, but I was really energized at how well they went after the Weeping Man, which was cool too, because we had a kid on that game who had never ever played before, which is a pretty good opportunity as well.
Yeah, so I enjoyed the Weeping Man, but I mean, I'm more and more falling in love with OSC and low fantasy gaming, honestly. But I enjoyed the Weeping Man, and I think it definitely, I agree. The adventure seems really neat, but unfortunately, we only got to the entrance of what we're supposed to be the actual adventure. I'm assuming, is that correct? Yeah. So, because I think we maybe dithered a lot, like Hobbs said, because people had different like kind of missions on their character, and maybe that it's great that you learn that a better approach in the Kalmata game than from our dithering. But I enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed my character. I had a good rapport with one of the players, because sometimes I think that's one of the coolest things that happens is like you hit it off with one of the players, and then you're like, oh, we're going to work together now, and you've never met this person before. I already had met Grady and Ryan Moore, who played in this game too. So it was really a cool thing. And I think, unfortunately, we lost some momentum when we had some people show up late. But as Hobbs mentioned earlier, a lot of people's flights were delayed and all that kind of stuff. And I thought it was very generous of Jason to let them jump in, even though they're a bit late. But pretty cool. I enjoyed it. I definitely would love another opportunity to play that, because I like that. I do, and I agree. The hex crawl, the hex style is sandbox is what's appealing in that in your emergent empire setting, honestly. So I think, and that's a different setting of where Kalmata, you place Kalmata, which I thought was pretty cool. So
no, it's the same setting. Kalmata is just
it's a different location.
Yeah, different location. And most of the people in Kalmata don't care about the cultures, because it's really, I mean, when you have hundreds of different people playing that game, and it could just be on the spur of a moment, you don't get that involved in the other cultures. It's all kind of centralized on Kalmata itself.
Right. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I guess it's time to talk about my games. I'll do it briefly.
Yeah.
And you can ask me questions, because we didn't really get to really, I think we didn't really get to like a debrief, right? which is, I
Just a
guess,
little.
in a way, why we're doing this. We just gave like impressions. It went well. It was great. Oh, but not really sit down and debrief, which I think would have been really cool. We did somewhat, but then, I think, like you mentioned, all the people we've met, like Alan Hamrick and Steve Winter, Zeb Cook, etc., is more interesting to listen to their tales than to talk about our day. So
Yes.
yeah. So Bone Collectors is a medieval pulp Call of Cthulhu game using the 7th edition rules and the pulp addendum, the pulp supplement, and it's the 3rd time I run it. I run it at a weekend with good friends, and I ran it at ChupacabraCon live, and then here at North Texas RPGCon, and it gets better every time. I get more suggestions from the players of what worked and what didn't work, and it went really smoothly, really well. I think I had 5 players again this time, not a full table, but 5 players was good enough. And so the premise is like this is the aftermath of the Battle of Towton, War of the Roses time period between York and Lancaster. Lancaster loses the battle. There's a rout and a chase into the woods, and then Lancaster, some of the members of Lancaster and York forces run into each other in the woods and see something bad going on, and then they decide if they want to fight each other or figure out what the bad is. And all 3 times there's a lot of bickering and arguing. I'm York, I'm Lancaster, which I think is great for the role play aspect. But I think fortunately they focus in on the bad stuff. So that's happened all the time. And
What?
Go ahead.
What would you do if they did get in a fight? Like, I mean, even Marvel, when Marvel Comics, when heroes would run into each other, they always had to have the obligatory fight first.
Yeah, I'd let them do it, and then maybe like I could then have them see something strange going on while they're fighting, either like observing it, recording it, or some of the enemy are flitting around or doing something there in this scene. So maybe they would get involved or just watch, or because of the blood that is spilled, something happens. But I'd let them do it. I mean, that's part of it, right? That's how fanatic or loyal are they? And some of the characters I write in there, what their motivation might or might not be. So it depends. But it was kind of funny that at the end, the York Knight did recruit everyone to become monster hunters. So that was pretty good. It was a good game. I don't want to spoil too much because I think I will probably, now with the 3 games and the books and lots of notes, I think I'm going to try to get it onto like Miskatonic University Press or something, that is offered through drive-through. So I thought that was good. It was very encouraging. And then the other game I ran was a game for Weird Frontiers called For a Few Coppers More. And that one, I think I ran kind of a funnel type game for you, like pre-COVID, like a long time ago. And I don't even know if you remember it.
Vaguely, it was for we gathered up players either from your Discord or from the Audio Dungeon Discord, I think.
Yeah. So I know Pete from Dragons Are Real also played in that game, and I believe TJ Drennan might have played in that game as well. So Cody Mazza, I think. Anyway, that was a long time ago. It's evolved. It actually went really well. It was cool. I ran into David Beatty, who designed the Weird Frontiers game, and he let me borrow some decks of cards. I was wearing my Weird Frontiers shirt, and he gave me some swag to give to the players. So I thought that was pretty cool, and it ran really well. I was pretty happy with it. And actually, I think maybe because of the swag and because I was wearing the shirt, they thought I was associated somehow with Weird Frontiers. Because then they asked, like, when are you going to publish this? Or when is this going to be published? So I thought that was a good compliment. And one of the players actually gave me like a set of a DCC dice. Weird Frontiers has Weird West, uses DCC, as its core. But the cool thing about Weird Frontiers is that the designers, David, he designed like 12 different character classes. They're very unique, very evocative. So we had like a luchador, a mystic monk, who's more like a stagecoach driver with a bullwhip. We had a gambler play, and then one play played a Tommy Knocker, which is like an undead, a guy who's risen back from the dead or a person who's risen back from the dead, but not like a raving zombie. And I think they all had a good time. They came to a very satisfying resolution, but what I learned, because I thought was cool, is there are multiple outcomes. And they even like, I thought one of the best parts of the game was when they said, okay, we know what the kind of the end game might be, but here are our options. And then they chose one of those, which I thought was kind of neat. So we also had a couple players. It's always fun, and I think when you have players who've never played this particular game before. So I had that in both games, which I thought was neat.
Which is quite a few for Weird Frontiers, since it hasn't even really come out for Kickstarter yet. We finally got to see the massive tome that is Weird Frontiers.
Yeah, Beatty had it. That can stop like definitely stop a revolver shot.
900 plus pages.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Of 70-pound paper.
Yeah, and I ordered that the deluxe, that one that he brought.
That's what I got. The leatherette cover.
Yeah, I had a good time. Running it. So that's probably why I was exhausted. Go ahead.
One of the fun things that just to talk about Weird Frontiers for a second, I'm obviously a big fan of Beatty. I've known him for a long time. We're good friends. I think there might have been more Weird Frontiers games on the books at North Texas Con this year than there were MCC or DCC.
Yeah, I know he ran some. What did the Moores both
Paul
run?
Smith ran some. You ran
Paul
some.
Smith, I ran some.
Yeah, so that's pretty awesome for a game that hasn't actually been published yet.
Right. Yeah, it was good. It's a good game. So now I got to polish it up and make sure that, like, I guess the goal is to get something out there that anyone can run. It runs just as well, right? I mean,
that's the hard thing. If you can write your rules in a way that somebody else can run them, then you have accomplished a bucket list for most RPG DMs anyway. I don't know if players all want to do their own game or not, but players definitely, or GMs definitely do. Yeah,
for sure. Right. Like, I think like I've learned in Bone Collectors is the most, I don't know. I don't know if I thought it was going to be boring, but the part where the players go through the Battle of Towton and describe what they're doing during the different phases has been like the most, like, people have gotten very excited and talk about it to me after the game. Like, oh, how does this match with the historical contest? And it's so awesome. So that's what I call like the quote unquote luck battle at the beginning to set the mood. This is like the bloodiest battle that ever took place on English soil, blah, blah, blah. So they really have gotten into that. So yeah, and that is something that I guess a lot of people haven't seen, right? That type of, overview of a big conflict where you're a participant, but it doesn't get into the weeds of like a blow by blow battle, which I think really worked, and it has worked.
So I don't know how much of this conversation you remember, but so do you think that's a historical game, or do you remember talking with Thaddeus about that?
Oh, right. Yeah. Our buddy Thaddeus Moore. No, because it has the mythos elements in there, and I think that's what. Yeah, I mean, sure, there is a backdrop. It's like the backdrop is historical, but this is like an alternate. You Call of Cthulhu is, to me, is an alternate universe where the mythos exists. So it's not. It's not real. I mean, it tries to base itself in reality, but it's not historical, right? A historical game would, like, we're going to do a blow by blow account of the Battle of Towton with minis or your individual characters leading a squad or whatever, or a group of knights or whatever in the gritty, muddy, snowy, conflict. Yeah. So I don't think,
I don't know. I think people would probably say my niche with running games is hex crawl sandbox games, but your niche is definitely running those alternate history games, because I've heard lots of people talk about your Roman Cthulhu games. I played in like a lot of the games on Hero Central were actually historically based, and it really is cool. You just have a really good knowledge of ways to weave that history in that really gives a relatable feel to the game.
Right, and I that's why I kind of gravitate towards games like Deadlands or Weird Frontiers, where you can throw in those pseudo historical elements or have like a person who might have existed in history or who did exist in history, like kind of show up and make a cameo. So I did that. I did that for a few copies more actually. So it's kind of cool. So whether people pick up on it, it's not like a major historical figure, but someone who actually existed kind of shows up, and it can be a adversary or an ally for the player. So just depends. But it was good. I had a good time. And I would tell. I mean, I don't know if you can communicate to Beatty, or if you listen to this podcast, that the people really got into those character classes, right? The Tommy, the luchador, made sure he described it. Even did like a sort of a mime of him pulling his mask on and off. The gambler with the cards, right? The mystic monk with the bullwhip, and the Tommy knocker. They have this ability where they can put dead things into their wounds and it heals them up. Yeah, they really got it. Classes are very well done, different and evocative, I would say. Very conducive to letting players immerse into a game if we're using immersion as talk about immersion.
Yeah, so. I think in a question that I don't remember if I asked or if someone else did, 100 pages is maybe not even that are the rules. The rest is like all the spells and the spell-like abilities for the different classes and the implied setting, the 7 days of night implied setting that Beatty has added, which is really, really, it is well voiced.
Yeah, I think so. I like it a lot. I'm gonna run it and play it, if I can get people, to do so. So I think we had a lot of highlights. For me, I had a lot of social as well as like, I don't know, professional highlights, gaming highlights. But what was your highlight during the con?
Well, like I said,
you pick one. I guess you don't have to pick one.
Oh, one of the main reasons that I went is to see my old buddies that I don't see other than at cons.
Right.
Other than seeing my old buddies, it was definitely my time that I spent at the special guest luncheon, because I was at that table with all these old guard people, and their conversations and stories were pretty fascinating. It was it was, I mean, I don't know, life changing is right, but maybe an epiphany of something that I may want to learn more about.
Yeah, I think some of them want to come on. You probably ask some of them to do Hobbs and Friends with you, right? So.
Oh yeah, almost all of them actually, and most of them had heard of it, which surprised me. So.
That's cool. Yeah, I was surprised too. Who am I? I've only been podcasting for a year, and a couple of people I talked to were like, "Oh yeah, here's my information. I'll do an interview." So yeah, people very generous with wanting to talk about their hobby, I think, and I think that goes from the older authors to the younger crop of authors. I think so. Yeah,
for sure. We should also do a shout out to Luau Lu from This Old Dungeon and the Podcasters Breakfast that he organized. He did a fantastic job, and I talked too much apparently during that, but it was pretty cool, and I think it helped a lot of people.
Oh yeah, we made some new contacts. I think that was really great. I think my highlight was really being. I'm generally not a social person. I kind of my highlight was meeting all these people whose stuff I've read, who I've played with online. Hanging out with you and seeing like Thaddeus, who I've known for so long, but we've never hung out, and we finally got to hang out, share a beer, talk about stuff, not just gaming, but it was good. It was a good con for me, and I hope it becomes like a more a regular thing where we get to hang out. I think that was a highlight. So and the person thinking, asking if I could publish this, when we're going to publish this, that was kind of cool. That was unexpected, right? So
yeah.
So are there any? Maybe I'll just jump to. I think we're going to come back if we can. I'm going to come back, right? I just Would you say so?
Oh yeah, for sure. I would come back if I was a special guest or if I wasn't, for sure. Like I say, I mean, it's definitely, I like it way more than GaryCon now. And even Gamehole, if I didn't have to travel, it would be a no-brainer forever, basically. It probably is, but you know, it is a day of travel for me. So, but I'll definitely go. It'd be hard for me not to, that's for sure. A lot of FOMO if I didn't.
Yeah, and I think for me, I'm going to keep going because it's relatively local, but I think meeting all these people and then kind of saying, oh yeah, we go to Gamehole, GaryCon, and then it seems like I have more incentive to go to those other ones too, to hang out with people that I didn't get to quite interact with because we just kept missing, like Greg Gillespie, right? We got to talk, but we didn't get to hang out. So I think that's the incentive to not only return to North Texas, but to then look to go to these other smaller cons where a lot of these people whose games I run and love are there.
That's it, man. That's the hook. That's what gets people to love going to cons is
Yeah.
going to the tribe a few times a year, because otherwise
Right.
you don't get to.
Yes. Are there any games that you wanted to get in and run but didn't?
I've always kind of had a slight interest in Tecumseh, but I'm terrified of it just because of the depth. And I've heard that the people who are really into it are really into it. So there's like a very steep learning curve. And maybe when you get into the game, that's all you hear is them talking about Tecumseh stuff. So it would have been nice to do that, but I'm disappointed that I couldn't make that happen with Victor. But I mean, I know that he's relatively local to me, kind of. He's either in Madison or Chicago area or something. So I know he's not that far from me. So that would be cool. Or Boot Hill, hearing Alan and Steve talk about their Boot Hill games, and then learning later that Steve actually wrote Boot Hill, the third edition of Boot Hill, and the whole story that went along with that. I was like, I got to get into the game with these guys sometime to play Boot Hill.
Yeah, that was pretty neat talking to those guys. Yeah, I think for me, I didn't get to. I feel like I've played like at least one Hyperborea game every time I've been to North Texas, and this time I didn't get into one because they always kind of present some new stuff that's in like kind of in play test. So I didn't get to jump into a Hyperborea game this time. I think that's the only thing. Although I get to talk a little bit with Jeff Delaney and the author, so that was fine. I guess that was a consolation, to to not. So did you get any fun purchases? That's always a big thing. Oh, I thought the vendor hall was quite extensive this time. I don't know. What do you think?
That's pretty much what I'm used to. Some of the guys didn't get there till Saturday, like that guy who was opposite corner, but obviously Bad Mike always has an awesome stuff that he has. And the Alan Groh and John Hirschberger at Blackblade Publishing, they always have all the DCC stuff plus a lot of other third-party products. I would say the thing I'm most excited about is probably Helvetia, Gabor Lux's picaresque game in 17th century Switzerland. I cracked that open last night so I could remember how to say picaresque.
Nice. Yeah, I picked that up too, especially after Zeb Pitt said he picked it up.
I feel like after I bought it and was talking it up and saying that I'm going to have Gabor on Hobbs and Friends and I'm going to like make that game popular because no one's talking about it really.
Yeah, it looks really neat. Yeah, I picked a copy of that up too.
You and I know at least 3 other people picked it up.
Yeah, it sold out by the end.
Yeah,
sold out of the product that they had brought. So yeah, I think that I talked up EMDT a lot. I talked up Gabor Lux's products. I love his little zines, the Echoes from Fomalhaut. I ran my DCC mini campaign using some of those supplements. So I really love his stuff. So it's the first Hungarian D20 Society written a lot by Gabor Lux and company. So
I have to say what my worst purchase was as well.
Okay. Some controversy by Hobbs.
This is not a controversy. This is absolute fact. My worst purchase was like these little plastic Hero Clicks figurines that I bought because since we had the tables and since we had the battle mats and I'm doing all the drawing and I got sick of doing the X's and then it's a wet erase. So then you got to like put shit on it. It's always a mess. I'm like, oh, I'm going to pick up just a few of these miniatures, a handful of them. And I was like, you know, maybe they'll be $1 a piece. It didn't really say $2 a piece, it said. And there was like a cool looking bone naga and kind of a troll that was a little bigger. I'm like, maybe they'll be $5 or something. When he rang them up and it was $50, I about pooped my pants, but I was like, I wanted them. I guess I'm going to do it regardless. So that is my work purchase.
I don't think I had any bad purchases. I liked what I got. I even got a copy of the 10th anniversary Barrow Maze, and Greg was able to sign it. So I was pretty happy with the purchases. I probably did, you know, go a little nuts, but Amy contends that she spent more at ChupacabraCon, so I feel good.
There you go. As an aside to that, I was in the Chicago area today for work, and I had a break, and I went to Games Plus, and I didn't know this, but a guy who hangs out there is actually Bill Meinhardt, who was actually on Jordan Peterson's show, and hit the pictures of almost all the books that you see in Playing at the World is from his collection. He's got one of the greatest collections of D&D stuff in the world. And so I saw him at North Texas, but I've seen that guy around, but I had no idea who he was. So today at the store, I finally asked him, and then so he's going to be on Hobbs and Friends. And so I bought I bought a couple things there as well. He even had like Todd LeBack's Basilisk Hills Hexcrawl book. You know what I'm talking about or no?
No, but I'll look it up and put it in the show notes. But the show notes for this episode of GMologist Presents are going to be so big. It's going to be like 2 pages. Jason Connerly of Nerds RPG will be super happy. He loves show notes. All right, man. It's been great talking to you. If you have anything else to say, I mean, we've really kind of run through the gamut of our awesome North Texas RPGCon experience.
Yeah, you did a great job of coming up with the things that you wanted to talk about. I'm probably going to do a few episodes of Random Screed because I'm going to really do a deep dive into some of the stuff.
Yeah. These are highlights. These are highlights, fellas. So.
Oh, we did talk about something that we thought they could do better in the future, right?
We haven't really talked about that.
Fix the game submissions would be my only one. So GM has control of their own game, so they can email the players, they can see who's in the game, who's not, see how many people are waiting, so they can contact them that would to say, hey, it's fine if you come and play, or whatever. That would be like the only thing I would say.
Yeah, I think so too. There was and other cons I've been to, even using the same platform, tabletop, you can have game master privileges and be able to communicate with your players ahead of time. I know at least one of the GMs I played in said that too. He's like, oh, it'd been great if I could have communicated with you guys to talk about character concepts, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I think that, and then you would know, like you could see it on your schedule too, as a game master, right?
Yeah, so then you wouldn't double book on accident or something.
Right. Yeah.
I saw a few people had problems with knowing if their game got it submitted or not. I know Greg said that, and also even like Zeb Cook said that. So it's like,
yeah. So I don't know if that was a lack of familiarity with the platform, or I mean, I know that I can't see. Like I know I was with a good friend when I did a weekend with good friends. They have like a whole something you have to read and sign and kind of electronically sign to say you're not going to be an asshole, you know, as a GM or as a player. So effectively they could have done that too, and maybe if they had some sort of reason for that layer of, you know, communication, cool, but let us know, and then let us know what the procedure is if we need to get in touch with our players. I think that, I agree. That's the only thing other than that. But I think maybe they realized some of that, and they were like extremely like accommodating when it came to you needing something as a GM. So I thought that was.
I sort of think that's the way Doug always did it, and so that's the way they did it. But
no, because when I've run at there before, I've gotten communique. I've never run anything at North Texas, but I've gotten communiques from game masters.
Oh, really? Well, that's what someone told me. I can't remember who it was, but that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's it. I mean, that's a small thing, and it can be. There's work. There are workarounds, right? So, and it definitely didn't diminish my experience. It just would make it better. Always looking to improve, right?
Exactly.
Bigger and better. All right, man.
Well, I'd like to thank you for having me on your show, Carl.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Hobbs. Thanks for hanging out with me and putting up with my weird quirkiness.
Your
but we're all-
snores.
You're the one who snores, sir. All right, man. Have a good one. And the good thing is we'll probably get to see each other, even though we haven't seen each other in like 20 freaking years. We'll probably be able to hang out when I'm up in Madison or in that Chicago area in July. So
That'll be great, man.
Bonus. All right, man.
All
Have
right.
a good one.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.